Durrett was 50 years old when she took a home DNA test that gave her shocking results. The man she thought was her father wasn't, and her journey to find the family she never knew existed also uncovered a family history of cancer that ultimately saved her life. It's quite a story. Please welcome Karen Durrett. Thank you for being with us. I'm going to call you Karen, you call me Barbara. Okay, fine. Karen, you began this because you were not sure that the man you thought was your father was your biological father. Why did you feel that way?
Just a strong feeling my whole life that I didn't look like anyone, I didn't act like anyone, I could not find any relatives that had any of the same
Why'd
features.
you think, you knew your mother was your mother, so it had to be your father that wasn't your father. Okay, and what did your parents think when you first said, I want to do a DNA test? Were they upset?
No, my parents were divorced for a very long time.
I see.
Since I was 8 years old. And they were both guests in my home for Christmas to meet my granddaughter. And, you know, I was having some issues with my health, and I just said, with y'all's history of heart disease and stroke, and I need to check mine. And so they supported me on that because it was about getting the answers I needed.
It was the man who raised you as your father, not
the man I thought was my father.
So you acted on your suspicions at that point.
It was this inner voice.
And thankfully there's a way to do that now, because you used a at-home DNA kit. We actually have a sample of one here. So what is the process like, and is it expensive to actually get one of these and get the results?
No, not at all.
Okay.
When they originally came out, it was pricier, but now it's become more affordable.
Okay.
You just scrape off a little bit of, well, what do you do?
You actually, it's a process of spitting.
You spit into it.
Now, without a doctor, you can do that without being under a doctor's care?
How long until you send it, until you get the results?
They say 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I was one of the pioneer members, and mine actually turned around pretty quick. It was like 4 weeks.
Wow.
And it tells you what?
It told me over 101 diseases that I'm susceptible for, that my DNA actually carries genetically the predisposition. It tests everything from bipolar disorder to alcoholism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's.
Yeah. You also had your parents take the DNA test as well.
Yes, I did.
Why?
I did not have them take the exact same DNA test because I started suspecting that the man wasn't my father. And so, for once and for all, I could find out. And I just took the power into my hands. It's something that I've questioned my whole life. It was a part of a search for my own self, my truth.
But this was denied throughout your life, is that correct?
It was never told to me. My mother has carried this secret for 51 years.
So
how did, go ahead.
I was going to say, so once you realized that you were right internally, and you said to them, okay, anybody want to explain this to me? What was their response?
It was a little more complicated because my mother had a cerebral aneurysm 31 years ago. So her speech is damaged. She suffers some brain damage, she's paralyzed, and she, you know, for the last 30 years almost, I've lived distant from her. So it was a series of phone calls. And when the truth finally came out, it explains so much, because I have 2 beautiful daughters that are musically gifted, and my biological father was a singer and a guitar player.
Wow. Now, how did you find your real father?
God helped me, truly. It was unexplainable, but I did it all myself on the internet. I was alerted to some cousins that were sticking out in North Carolina from the region that neither one of them, the people I thought were my mom and dad, were from. They were actually related to my biological father, and I was able to go through their family trees, their surnames, find out what common surnames that they shared to narrow it down. And so with my mother's brain damage, it took about 2 weeks before she could come up with his last name, because she had suppressed it for so long.
Did any of the other family members on your mother's side know about this?
No one knew about it.
No one knew.
My mother never told a soul until I had the evidence. My mother was buried in shame. She was 16 years old.
Wow.
You know, it's not a story that we don't hear.
We hear that, that's right.
You know, not only did you find your biological father, but you say this kid actually saved your life.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us how?
In June, I met my half-biological sister, Kathy, and she was just at that point in remission from stage 4 lymphoma. So never knowing my paternal history, You know, I had no idea that cancer was in my family at all. Not only that, I had an aunt who had passed away on my paternal side from bone cancer. So that gave me a warning. Then 23andMe sent me an alert in August. They keep your DNA in their database, and when your health risk increase or their testing gets, you know, more current, they sent me an alert that I was at high risk for breast cancer. It was time for me to have my mammogram in October. When the radiologist called me back for a repeat and said, oh, it looks like a calcification, I'd like for you to wait 6 months. I told him no, I didn't want to wait.
Just got chills.
That my DNA told me I was predisposed for this, and he did not understand.
Did he give you a sonogram as well as a mammogram?
No, this was two mammograms, and I pleaded for the biopsy. I got the biopsy the very next week.
Did they support the fact that you had this DNA evidence? Did they then take that into consideration?
They didn't seem to understand it. I think doctors have not learned this yet.
The basis of all medicine, really.
You had 2 lumpectomies, and you're doing very well.
Great. And
You just fit 33 radiation treatments. You just finished last month?
March 17th.
Wow.
Sherry, I have to point out something before we conclude. Because what you did was so important, personally and health-wise, but the federal government may soon be putting at-home DNA tests under strict regulations, I am told. Some think the test is not always accurate and it shouldn't be interpreted without a doctor's guidance. So
I disagree.
Good.
Well, obviously it helped you and it can help many others.
Changed my life forever.
And you're here with us, and we're grateful to have you and to learn about it. Our thanks to you, Karen, for being with us. We appreciate
it. Use your right hand, George. Now put it right above your eye. Good.